Welcome to the Miracles Happen Fertility Podcast, where it's all about using the power of your mind to create hope, health, and miracles on your fertility journey. And now your host, a dash of science and a heap of spirit, Dr. Maria Rothenberger.
Hey, welcome to the Miracles Happen Fertility Podcast. Episode 108. I am laughing at myself right now because this is the fourth rendition of this introduction, and I am just like being completely imperfect and like deleting it and re-recording, and I don't know why. So I'm going to keep it imperfect right now because that's how I roll. Apparently, that's how I try to roll, but then I fixed this 4 times, and now it's still not fixed, and now I'm going to leave it. So, yay. An introduction on being imperfect. Thank you, Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. This podcast episode 108 is about connecting to your greater self. I am Dr. Maria Rothenberger, the host for this podcast. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, welcome. I am a therapist and coach specializing in fertility issues, all things family building, or even living child-free, stopping the journey there and continuing with a different journey, maybe an unexpected one, and yet just as valuable and beautiful. For those of you who have read my book, Transcending Infertility, you'll know I was 100% delighted to move forward on the path of child-free living until my husband said, never mind, I really want to be a dad. So we moved on to adoption. But it is a beautiful, lovely, viable way of living that I was excited to explore. Okay, all that to be said, before we get into how to connect to your greater self, and really what is the greater self, and why would you want to connect to that part of you, a couple of announcements. So first of all, we are wrapping up National Fertility Awareness Week 2021. This is the last few days. This is Thursday, April 22nd. Also Earth Day. Yay! It's a beautiful way to celebrate the earth. I hope you're getting your recycling on, your composting on, and all that good stuff. I really need to learn about composting. There's a great TED Talk about that. Did you know that? Okay. I'm on a roll with distraction today. So, okay. We're wrapping up the final days of National Fertility Awareness Week. For those of you who have heard this podcast before, it officially is National Infertility Awareness Week. I don't love the word infertility. I don't identify as infertile. Go way back to an earlier podcast episode why I don't label myself that. I just feel like there's an energetic shift when you do that. So I like to say National Fertility Awareness Week because we want to be more aware of how we can be fertile rather than being aware of our infertility. Now, that said, it is important to educate people on how difficult this process and journey is. And so, yes, perhaps there's a better way to describe it. For now, I'm going to stay with National Fertility Awareness Week. And tomorrow, Friday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I will be on an Instagram Live with Naturally Nora, who was in episode 107 talking about her 4 R's to getting pregnant. And we're going to have a conversation about, there's a whole bunch of ideas that we have. And so I'm not quite sure what we're talking about. Maybe spirit baby stuff, maybe past life regression stuff, maybe how to handle anxiety, maybe post-traumatic growth. My goodness. There are all kinds of things that we could be talking about. So join us live Friday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. And if you need a reminder, certainly you can just put it on your phone. But if you're like me, you ignore phone reminders. So that just doesn't work for me. You can get on my email list at drmariarothenberger.com, and I will be sending updates a few minutes even before the Instagram Live. So you can join us for a 30-minute chat. Okay, so that's one announcement for tomorrow. I hope you've been having fun this week, talking about what I want you to know, right? That's the theme for this year, hashtag what I want you to know. If you didn't know that, search hashtags all over Instagram and Facebook, and you'll see, and probably Twitter too, and you'll see all kinds of content around this year's theme, what I want you to know. I do encourage you, even if you don't publish it publicly, write down what you would like others to know about what this experience is like. My whole story is out there in my book, Transcending Infertility, and it's what I want people to know. Okay. What else? Oh, yeah, I have some sad news, actually. If you've read Transcending Infertility, you know about my beautiful dog, my beautiful mini dachshund, Dexter, but we call him Monkey. He was just diagnosed with Cushing's disease, which apparently is a typical or a common diagnosis in dachshunds. Did not know that. He is going to be 15 in August of 2021. And we thought that he was just aging, but he seemed to be aging so fast. So we took him to the vet, and it turns out he has Cushing's disease, which is a hormonal imbalance. And he will be taking some meds for the rest of his life. But the really good news is that the typical lifespan post-diagnosis is like 2 years, and that would make him 17 years old. So I'm happy to have had him for as long as we have, and he holds a lot of meaning for us on our fertility journey. So it's going to be pretty difficult saying goodbye to him, but just send in your wellness vibes, your prayers, whatever it is that you do to send well wishes to my beautiful little monkey. And you've probably seen him on Instagram if you follow me there. Oh, and Facebook, at Dr. Maria LPC on Instagram and Dr. Maria Rothenberger on Facebook. Okay, but some fun news. My family and I we have purchased an RV, a travel trailer, and we are going to be traveling all over the place in this thing. And this year, summer 2021, we will be traveling all around Oregon. And next year, we are planning an epic cross-country trip. So I would love to know, if you are in the U.S., where you are, because I'm collecting names and stuff and thinking about creating some like meetups or something. Because wouldn't that be freaking fun? Okay, so if you are in Oregon, let me know where you are and we can coordinate something. I love meeting people in real life. It would be so cool to meet you. And if you're comfortable during this COVID thing, we are fully vaccinated. If you're comfortable, I'm a hugger, so we can do that too. Masks on, if you like. Okay, so all that said, moving on to this greater self. This podcast is inspired by this month's meditation release, which is called Connect to Your Greater Self. And first, I just want to define what I mean by the greater self. It's a pretty common term in the New Age community. We talk about the greater self. I actually watched a documentary on Gaia TV where they talked about mystical traditions talking about the greater self, where 2/3 of our consciousness is still in what we might call heaven or the other realm before we are incarnated onto this earth, and 1/3 of us is here. So the greater self is the 2/3 of us that are still in the other realm, kind of guiding and watching over and, helping us maneuver through this incarnation. But I like to also go deeper. So what I think about the greater self, also called the divine self, excuse me, by the way, I almost like that phrase better, the divine self, because I don't want to imply, some people also say the higher self. I don't want to imply that there's a distance, like, there's a high, like heaven we say is up. I don't want to imply that that's what it is. I feel like we're all hanging out together in the same general area. There's just this, like separation of some kind of veil, some religious traditions call it. I like to think that we're right beside our greater self or our divine self, and accessing the divine self, is quite simple and easy. So it's that part of you that has all the wisdom. And from a psychological standpoint, I think I mentioned this already in this podcast. If this is your first time listening, I am a mental health therapist, so I can speak from the psychological aspect too. So from that aspect, it's the part of you that is completely without ego. It is totally non-judgmental. It's open to everything, attached to nothing, and it is all love. It's all about love. So accessing that part of yourself, and this is here we're getting into the why you would want to do that. Accessing that part of yourself allows you to create decisions and make choices based on love rather than any kind of negative energy or judgment or fear, right? And I talk about that quite often, that there really are only two emotions, and that's fear or love. And everything is derived from those two things. Anything that feels quite heavy and negative is probably from a fear place. And anything that is, sorry about that, that's my phone. Anything that is more positive and higher vibration, we say it comes from love. And your greater self or your divine self is all about love, no judgment at all. And so when you make decisions that are not ego-based, you're not fearing what other people are going to say, you're not worried about what might come of that decision, you're just feeling what it's like to experience the most loving and highest vibration for whatever decision you make moving forward. It is actually so efficient. And my Taurus self loves efficiency. So I like to get right in there and go, okay, greater self, what do I need to do here? Let me try on these two decisions or these three decisions and see which one feels like it's coming from the greatest love place, the easiest place. And that skill is actually in Transcending Infertility. I call it trying on the pants technique, where I reference going to a store, and I'm quite short. I'm 5'1.5", and I am quite curvy. So I like to try on lots of jeans to see how they fit me. And sometimes there's a big gap in the back, and sometimes they're too tight on the hips and thighs, and sometimes they're way too long. Okay, 100% of the time they're way too long. But sometimes they fit really well in the hips and the waist and the thighs, and they're a tad too long. And those, even though they're not perfect, they fit the best. And that's what you're looking for when you're connecting to your greater self, is you're looking for the one that fits the best, that comes from the highest vibration. Maybe it's not the highest, the most highest, like you can't get any higher vibration, but it's the highest of those choices. So potentially still imperfect, and yet the best choice for you, given the options that you have. So if you want to know why, I suggest connecting to your greater self. That's it. Quick, efficient, loving decision-making. But also, it's a beautiful way to just sit in stillness and connect to who you really are. Now, we're getting into maybe some more mystical and more spiritual content here, which I absolutely love. I talk about meditating a lot, and how I went into meditation kicking and screaming, and I hated every second of it. My thoughts were nuts. And after a good 90 days or so, I hit that sweet spot of like, oh, this is actually changing me. And it was like a fleeting moment. I touched on the beauty that was there. I touched on my greater self, my divine self, and how all of this experience that we have on this planet it's almost meaningless. And so when you touch on that, it's like all of this doesn't matter. My soul is growing because of these, so that's important. But all of the particulars, should I do this or should I do that? What about A, B, or C? All of those, they ultimately don't matter. What matters is how much your soul grows and how loving you are, and how much love that you can spread in this lifetime. And I'm getting super hippie right now, but damn, I love that. Speaking of love. So this is how I roll. I'm very grounded on this planet and talking about practicalities and efficiency. And then it's still coming from this very spiritual place. So this is how I live now. After 10 years of living in this, or learning and growing and living in this space, and I'm still freaking learning and growing. The more that I learn, the less that I know. Isn't that a song? The more I learn, the less I know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a song. So I think that's really important, is to notice that these things that we're going through ultimately don't matter as much as how we grow from them and how we learn from them and how much love that we can give ourselves first and then spread outward. You need to fill that bucket first. Okay, so that is what the greater self is in a nutshell. And I'm sure I could talk for freaking ever about that. And also why you want to connect to your greater self. The meditation that I published for April is designed to help you get into a meditative state, theta brainwave state. I use Solfeggio frequencies. If you don't know what Solfeggio frequencies are, just here's a prescription or an allowance for using your Dr. Google time. Use 5 minutes to look up Solfeggio frequencies. That's S like Sam, O, L, F like Frank, E, G, G, I, O. Solfeggio frequencies. They are designed to help different aspects of the soul to gain different goals or to achieve different goals. And the one that I chose for this meditation release is designed to help you connect to your greater self. They're fascinating. Sound is fascinating. And I totally want to have an interview with somebody who knows more about this than I do. See, the more I learn, the less I know. So it's fascinating though. So this meditation that I created is designed to help you get down into that vibrational state where you receive information easier. Your ego is more out of the way. Your thinking mind is more out of the way. And you're just able to connect to that greater divine part of yourself and ask any questions that you might have. I do suggest sticking with one question in the beginning and seeing what comes up. Heads up, the answer that comes to you should be it's almost like you can't even ask it fast enough, and the answer is in your mind already, in your knowing or in your awareness already. That's how you know that it's coming from your divine self. It's just like instant awareness or knowing. So that's what that meditation is about. And in case you didn't know, for Fertility Awareness Week, I'll get to the members in a second. Everyone can go to my shop at drmariarothenberger.com/shop and pick up anything there, including this meditation that I'm talking about, for 20% off. Use coupon code NFAW 2021. That stands for National Fertility Awareness Week 2021. Just use that coupon code upon checkout and you get 20% off. Now, members, if you are a member of the Patreon community for the Miracles Happen Fertility Center, you get 25% off everything in the fertility shop, and that coupon code is extended until the 30th. For non-members, totally fine, still great and useful. The coupon does expire this Saturday, the 24th. But members, the coupon code is extended through the 30th, and you get 25% off. If you are a member, you will have already received an email from me detailing your specific coupon code. If you become a member now, between now and the 30th, you will also get that coupon code, 25% off everything in the fertility shop, including big ticket items like coaching, spirit baby sessions, past life regression sessions, but certainly this meditation that I'm talking about, the greater self, connecting to your greater self. Okay, so how do you connect to your greater self? So obviously, if it's not obvious, it will be in a second. The very first thing that I'm going to suggest is meditation. So, why does meditation work? So first of all, if you are on a family building journey, I highly recommend meditation anyway. I consider it essential. If you want to know more about that, more about why, you can go to my website. And on the very front page there's an ebook called 5 Reasons Why Meditation is Essential for Your Fertility. Please download that. It's free. Just pick it up. You'll understand why. And there are tips in there on how to get started. So meditation is essential because it helps you engage your parasympathetic nervous system. Just on a biological level, this is really important for your fertility. Being on a family building journey is, suffice it to say, it's stressful, right? I'm sure we can use much bigger, longer words to describe the experience of trying to build your family. It is, bottom line, exceedingly stressful. And that is all sympathetic nervous system. That is all, you might even feel chronically fatigued. It's all adrenaline. It's all cortisol, which are all quite useful chemistry in your body, but not great for fertility. So we want to have more peace, more parasympathetic nervous system, more ease, more gentleness. This is another reason why, side note, I don't love the idea of infertility warrior. First, the word infertility is its own vibration, and I would highly recommend you do not identify with the word infertile. But also warrior implies fight, 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 fight. You're already fucking fighting so much. Don't add more fight, please. Don't add more fight. Instead, think of a raging river. It's crazy, this journey. And think about floating on that river, allowing all the tumbles to go with you, but you're still keeping your head above water and watching where the river goes. Not everything includes rapids. Sometimes there's some calmness, and you float along, watching where the river is, keeping your head up, keeping in the center of the river. Maybe occasionally you come across a river bank, but you know that the river is still flowing to your goal. You're just coming around the bank and, freaking another bank. All right, but I know ultimately I'm being led to my goal. That is a much better way, in my opinion, to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're letting go without giving up. Okay, if this makes any sense, letting go without giving up. That's another chapter in my book. And giving up, by the way, I want to be clear, because giving up, when you talk, I'm doing a lot of side notes today. This is why you need to listen to every single podcast episode, because there are a lot of side notes. Giving up is really difficult to hear from people who decide to live child-free, okay? Because there's an implication that doing air quotes, there's an implication that they have given up. So freaking untrue. So untrue. I can't think of a lesser way to explain what it's like to choose to end the fertility treatments or anything that leads up to a child, adoption process, whatever, and to live child-free. I know that this is controversial. What I'm going to say next is controversial. I do believe that it's still a choice. So a lot of people say, I'm childless not by choice. I'm speaking specifically about the fertility community. There are plenty of folks who didn't meet the right partner or whatever other reasons for being child-free, but I'm speaking specifically about the fertility community. I still believe, if you can wrap your mind around this, and in the mental health world, we call this a reframe. No, it was not your first choice. And it is a choice when you say, no more. I'm not going to do this bullshit anymore. I will never forget the day that our last cycle failed. We had a chemical pregnancy, which I call a miscarriage. And I grieved for 24 hours. And I I bounced down the stairs the next day and I took all of my needles and all of the meds and I highly illegally swept them all into the garbage and I freaking did the jig. Okay. I was so free. I was so excited. That was a choice. And my doctor's like calling me. I know we can work on your egg quality. Please, we can come up with a new protocol. And I'm like, oh, thanks, doc. You're amazing. And no, because it was a choice. I'll never forget that. Incredibly empowering. If you can, in your own personal journey, create a reframe around this and think about it. How is this my actual choice? How is this a choice? And obviously, everybody's story is individual and different. You can email me anytime and I will help you with that, especially if you are a Patreon member. I will get into detail with you. So, okay, that said, when you envision being part of a river as opposed to being a warrior, that engages the parasympathetic nervous system. So that takes us back to how to connect to your divine self with meditation, starting with meditation. So meditation creates a stillness in you, and it helps you get into that space where you're not so connected to your ego. Your thinking mind, I've mentioned this already today, the thinking mind is quieted a little bit, or if the thinking mind is still going, like it, honestly, that's how meditation works for me. You're able to just notice that the thoughts are happening and you watch them go. It's like, oh, hi thought. And then you refocus back down to your breath or whatever your anchor is. And you're able to disconnect from your ego a little bit. You're able to disconnect from any kind of judgment or worry. I remember, especially when I was doing an 8-week training for mindfulness-based stress reduction, I wrote down in my notes, okay, so I'm judging my thoughts, and then I'm judging the judging, and then I'm judging the judging of the judging. That's how it is. That's how it is. If you experience that, you are normal. Continue practicing and you'll watch that dissipate. You'll just watch it go. You'll no longer judge the judging of the judging, and then you'll no longer judge the judging, and then you'll just no longer judge. You watch the thoughts happen. Oh, hi brain, thanks for working. I'm going to pay attention to my breath right now, right? Or whatever it is that you're focusing on. And there are suggestions in the meditation that I created. There, by the way, are plenty of other meditations out there for connecting to your greater self. I suggest checking out Insight Timer. Lots of free content out there. And they're beautiful. They're beautiful. You have to really find what works for you and what resonates with you. So meditation is essential. You don't have to use a guided meditation either. You can simply be still. You can simply be still. And if you can get past that discomfort of constantly reaching for your phone or looking for some kind of input, like turning on the TV or whatever it is, we are such a busy society. If you can get past that discomfort, you will have reached the stillness. And mostly people go in and out, in and out, in and out of the stillness in the beginning, especially. But over time with practice, you can just sit in the stillness. And it's such a beautiful place to be. I'd love to meet you there. Okay, one of these days, perhaps I'll have a live meditation on Insight Timer. Thought. I just had a good thought. Okay, so we've talked about connecting with meditation. What else can you do? So I think that it's really important to recognize that your divine self is present. And so you acknowledge, you say, hi, greater self, or hi, divine self, whatever you want to call that part of you, and feel the love emanating from that part of you. In the meditation that I recorded, I give a visual of looking at yourself in the mirror. And so then you're able to have this visual of a separate you, even though it's not separate. It's always there and it's always you. But having that visual of looking in the mirror is like, oh, there's something there. So recognizing and acknowledging your greater self. Hi, greater self. Thank you for being here. So there's always this attitude of gratitude and an openness to receiving information. So when you say hello, you acknowledge your greater self, and then you talk with your greater self. And if you're a Patreon member, which by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, you can go to patreon.com/Miracles Happen Insiders and check out the tiers there and see if you'd like to join there. But I got a comment recently about the bloopers, about the blooper reel from the videos that I put out for members only. And there was one blooper that I put in there about it being completely natural and normal to talk to yourself. And it's coming from a mental health therapist, so there's that. It must be true then. Anyway, so talking, literally like talking to your divine self, whatever you might say from a loving place. And then in the beginning, I suggest asking one question. And again, this answer is usually quick. This is how I do spirit baby work too, or mediumship work. If I speak a question to an entity on the other side, I cannot get it out fast enough before the answer is already there. If the person that I'm working with has a question, the answer is already there before they can get it out. That's how you know that you're communicating well. So what did I say? Meditation, saying hello, being aware that you are with your greater self and saying hello and having an energy of gratitude around that. And then asking your question, talking to your greater self, asking your question. And then you sit in the stillness and you meditate upon or contemplate the answer. And usually what you'll feel is what I encourage you to do. Notice what your body does, because your body has instant awareness of the information that's coming your way. Does it feel right to you? Does it feel good to you? It's the same way that I ask coaching people to decide, for example, if they should exercise or if they should eat certain types of food or avoid certain types of food. Pay attention to your body. It will tell you. And that is actually why your divine self is never separate from you. It's always there, communicating this way. Sometimes we'll say intuition, and that is also a part of the divine self, the greater self. It's an instant knowing. But I like this idea or this imagery of the greater self or divine self because it really is you. You are wise. You know. You already have the knowledge and the wisdom inside. It's simply about accessing it. And if you work with me directly, you will know, people, because there is so much in the fertility world about needing to have all the answers, that we go outside of ourselves, right? We Dr. Google it up. This is why I said, okay, give 5 minutes for this Dr. Google search on Solfeggio frequencies and drop that in your bucket. We tend to go to Dr. Google or other people or wherever we go to for answers when they are all inside us. So I really encourage you and anybody else that works with me directly, this, I encourage you to sense what feels right to me, because I can make suggestions and I have a giant toolbox, but you have to discern what is right for you. So that is how to connect to your greater self. And if you want more guidance on that, certainly you can go to my shop and pick up that meditation, or you can look on YouTube for connecting to your greater self. A lot of people call it higher self or divine self, or insight timer. There are resources all over the place. It is really useful. If you need an answer to your question right now, it is so useful to learn how to connect to your greater self. So I highly, highly, highly recommend. Okay, one tip before we go. What happens a lot of the time when people connect to their greater self and they ask a question and they get an instant answer? There's arguing. No, that can't be right. No, I don't think so. No, are you sure? No, come on. No, this is stupid. This is fake. This is just my imagination. Which, by the way, side note, your imagination, that's where your divine self lives. Please use it. It's an excellent skill to have. This is why kids connect to the other side so well, because their imaginations are still flowing like crazy. Okay, but there's the downplay. There's an argument. I encourage you to simply be receptive to what comes through. Just be receptive. There was one time I went to a training for mediumship because I had this experience with spirit babies. If you don't know that story, check out my coming out episode. It was published July 2020. And I sat in this training and another medium he told me my grandmother was there, and he told me that my grandmother was saying, you're going to be doing this work. And I'm like, that's just dumb. Obviously, you're fake. I thought I will never in a billion years do this work. Flash forward years later, July 2020, I'm like, I'm coming out as the spirit baby communicator. And my grandmother was right. So, but the whole time I was like arguing, there is no way that I'm going to be doing this work. Here are all the practical reasons why. I am a mental health therapist. I will be, branded crazy myself. I will be told I am this or that. That is absolutely asinine. I was asinine. So I do encourage you to not make the same mistakes that I do and simply receive the information, sit with it, maybe write it down in a journal and try again the next day. See what comes up the next day. And over time, give it a good week, maybe up to a few weeks, and see what patterns arise from the messages that you get from doing this information or doing this practice of connecting to your greater self. See what information comes through, especially the immediate information, not the ego mind information, which wants to rationalize and say that this is stupid and this is made up, and this is your imagination and that's all that it is. That's the ego self. It's okay. The ego is very important and useful for living on this planet. It's not useful for connecting to your greater self. So when you find yourself arguing, recognize your ego. Say, hi, ego. I don't need you right now. I'm taking a break and I'm just going to connect to my greater self and just receive the information. So you want to have this open-hearted energy or vibe about you so that you can receive that information well. And then your divine self will just keep talking and give you all kinds of information. And I even still, now I've been practicing this a long time, I even still go, oh, come on, that can't be right. Nonetheless, I write it down, noted, thank you, greater self, and I move on. And then lo and behold, maybe it's some years later, I'll be like, I'll have this inspiration to do a thing and I'll look back and be like, oh my God, my greater self told me I was going to be doing that. And that's how it works. Okay. So I hope that is useful for you, connecting to your greater self. There are other suggestions like picking up yoga and things like this that just help you settle. Anything that helps you feel settled and stillness will help you connect to your greater self. All right. May you be able to connect to your greater self. May you get all the answers that you need. May you enjoy these final days of National Fertility Awareness Week. And until next week for the Miracles Happen Fertility Podcast, my friend, be well.